Hi, and welcome to today's training industry webinar, How to Get Your Learners' Attention, What Training Professionals Can Borrow from Marketing. I'm Liz Spate, Events Marketing Specialist here at Training Industry, and I'm thrilled to have you with us here today. Before we get started, I would like to quickly go over a few housekeeping items to help you interact with our speakers and get the most out of today's program. Throughout today's event, please feel free to use the chat window to interact with our speakers with any comments. And as for any questions, please submit all questions to the Q&A section on your toolbar below. We will address all comments and questions throughout the event or at the end of the program during our Q&A section. We would also love to hear about what you've learned from today's session on social media. So please follow @Ingenuity Global and hashtag TI webinars as you share your favorite takeaways with your colleagues. When the webinar ends, you should receive a short evaluation survey. We always welcome your feedback on things like content, speakers, topics, or anything else you would like to share with us. So be sure to complete that survey. And as always, today's event will be recorded and archived on trainingindustry.com, and you'll receive a follow-up email from us that will include the link to the on-demand program for you to share with your team. If you've attended one of our programs in the past, thank you so much for joining us again. And if this is your first webinar with us, welcome. At Training Industry, we offer dozens of webinars with subjects ranging from AI, analytics, to onboarding, upskilling, and reskilling. We cover about every topic relevant to leaders of training organizations around the globe. Now, to get started, let me introduce you to today's speakers. Miriam is Ingenuity's Customer Success Manager. She holds a master's degree in educational technology and has been in learning and development for more than 25 years, working with higher education, nonprofit, and corporate clients. Jerry Zanstra is Ingenuity's Senior Director of Learning. Dr. Zanstra holds 2 master's degrees and 2 doctorates, and he's been in the learning and training and development space for more than 30 years. E-learning industry has named Dr. Zanstra as a global learning trailblazer for 2022 and 2023. Adam Aling is the VP of Ingenuity's client service team, driving impactful results worldwide with 15 years in global learning. He is a seasoned speaker at training events. Adam thrives on curiosity, uncovering solutions by questioning. He values his talent team and embraces the evolving learning and development landscape. So now please give a warm welcome to Miriam, Jerry, and Adam.
Liz, thank you very, very much. We appreciate your work in helping us get prepared and organized for this. This is like your very first class in college. The topic is how to get your learners' attention. So if you meant to be in something else, yeah, you're in the wrong place. We hope you're in the right place. And so what we're going to talk about today is what training professionals can learn and borrow and maybe even steal a little bit from marketing. Just a little bit about university and maybe a couple of background things. In a lot of webinars that many of you have been on, you save your questions toward the end. We would really, really like it if, as you have questions or as you have comments, drop them in the chat, drop them in Q&A. I'll find them and we'll address them as we go. It makes for a more challenging conversation for us and hopefully a more interesting one for you. So Jody, I'm going to answer your question right now. We do have a LinkedIn profile and Adam will send it to you shortly. Just a little bit about Ingenuity. So we provide 3 basic services. The first is custom learning, design, and development. And we have a very large team. We're over 150 people. Instructional designers to graphic designers. We create animations of all sorts. We do all sorts of interesting things with AI, some of which we'll talk about today. And from any modality that anybody can think of, from instructor-led all the way to virtual reality training. The second is translation and localization. This is at the core of what we do and who we are. This was the origin of Ingenuity, actually. And just in the last, I think it's less than 10 years, we've translated more than 1 billion words and more than 10,000 learning modules in up to 200 different languages. So we do a lot of translation and a lot of localization work. And then staff augmentation services. We've been doing that for a long time. We've placed more than 1,500 learning professionals, and our staff aug services really are targeted specifically at learning. So it could be an instructional designer that somebody needs, or a graphic designer, video editing, all project management in some cases. And so we've done that for a long time. So enough about us. Let's talk about learning and training professionals. And Miriam, my very first question is to you. When you did all the work that you did to become a learning professional, how many classes were there exactly on how to market what you'd created?
Yeah, I always think that's a fun question, right? It's not really in the scope of the curriculum. And to be fair, so instructional design can encompass, a lot of different industries, right? Which could be higher ed and
Sure.
K-12, or you have more of a captive market. But certainly we did not discuss how to market in the corporate world to our audience, because I think there's this general feeling that, if we build it, they will come, because of course what
Hmm.
we're creating is so amazing that we want them to,
Right.
we just assume. So no, short answer is no, there were not classes in that. And I learned, I think, the importance of it the hard way.
Yeah, I think if we build it, they will come is very common. And people in our industry sometimes wonder, we spent all this time, we developed this really cool thing. It's awesome. It's wonderful. People should love it. And it falls flat. And that's frustrating.
Mhm.
Adam and I actually had a conversation with a company just this morning, on a very large global company, on their marketing efforts, and we've worked with them for a long time. And they're trying to brand their new university, and thinking about how to do that, and sort of talking through, okay, now that this thing is built, how do we get people's attention? Which is really what we're going to be talking about today. There are several factors to this, right? A lot of us as learning leaders don't think of marketing as a core part of what we do. There's certainly time pressure. Everybody on here that's in learning knows, when you ask the question, when would you like this? What do you always hear? Yesterday. Yesterday is the most common answer. And so there's always pressure. And the pressure often is coming from people who don't really know the process of creating a learning experience. So they're
Mhm.
not instructional designers. They've never designed anything. In their minds, you could whip something together in 2.5 days, right? So there's always this time pressure. And so you don't really have a lot of time to think about marketing. And so we don't. The question is, should we? And we think we should. So let's just jump right into some of the core components. And Adam, I'm wondering if, I mean, you've done this a long time. I'm wondering if you can sort of walk us through this slide. What's the marketing funnel, and what at the end of the day is marketing?
Yeah, absolutely. So, really, when we're looking at this, we're talking first at a kind of typically a macro level, looking at awareness, getting attention, making sure that people are understanding what is out there, what's available, and then we're going down through the funnel, where we're getting to finally a place where we're going to take action, where we want people to take action. Um, I think, in the training space, we're typically having issues in almost every one of these levels, which means it is a challenge. There's usually a lack of awareness, what's out there for us. Interest level, can wane, because whether or not is it applicable to me, that's not always addressed when we're communicating about training. The desire, yeah, I'm really busy all day, every day. I don't know
Mm,
about taking 2 hours more of course content this week. And lastly, action. Why should I be looking at taking this content right now? Really, does it matter? Is it just so my manager won't be bothering me? So it's when looking at the marketing funnel, most businesses typically have at least maybe a couple of those elements where they're already addressing it. I think within the training space, we're typically looking at it where we aren't really addressing most of these areas, and I think that's why it's such a critical topic for us to go through today.
I used to have a business partner, Adam, that multiple times, very unfamiliar with with how marketing worked, or really how the internet worked, would say, just make it go viral. just push the button that makes it go viral. And he didn't really understand that there's an enormous process. I mean, once in a while you get something that goes viral and is shocking, but most of the time the things that have gone viral are incredibly complicated and a huge process to get there. So let's thank you, Adam. This is interesting for us to think: are your learners aware? Are they interested? Do they have a desire? And are they going to take action? And that sort of leads us to the one of the central topics of our conversation today, which is the role of attention. People in marketing will tell you that attention is the most valuable real estate. Some people even call attention currency, which is interesting. And attention is a transactional thing. And we see it in our language. In English, we say, pay attention. In Spanish, we say, lend attention. So you have to show me something that's of enough interest to me that I'm going to exchange some of my attention for the thing that you're showing me. And it is not, thank you, Sarah, by the way, for the office space. Bill Lundberg, worst character in a movie, but one of the funnier movies of all time. So Miriam, talk to us a little bit about attention and what are some of the challenges to it?
Yeah, I mean, so I think there's a couple things. One is that as learning professionals, we have to realize we have a story to tell. And I think that that is something that also wasn't necessarily emphasized, in a degree program of instructional design or curriculum development or things like that. It could have been in small portions, but again, the focus is on meeting the objectives and sort of, teaching, getting the knowledge out there to our learners, as opposed to spinning a tale that would draw them in, that would interest them. And also helping them so we can tell a story, right? But also, if we're thinking about important adult learning principles, we're trying to help our learner understand that what they're doing right now is not disconnected from their everyday life, but in fact, there's what's in it for me, right? Like there is a powerful reason why they should be doing it. And it is going to improve their, a specific skill perhaps, or a task or a relationship, but there's a reason why they should be going through this experience at this moment, and it is going to improve their lives. So telling it with a story, and I mean like a literal story, or even just sort of crafting the message in a way that is more compelling than in this module, you will learn the following 3 things, something a little more compelling.
So you're saying that's not an attention grabber, or it's not really, compelling, right?
It's not, but I mean, I totally understand, right? Like we do it all the time because we have to, but if we can create those in a more compelling way, and if we can tie it to good adult learning theory, helping our learners understand why it's important to them in this moment or perhaps in the future, that creates a lot more really motivation for them to pay attention.
Yeah, we're gonna talk a little bit at the level of theory, and then later on we'll get into some really practical examples of how to get people's attention. But attention is an interesting thing. Miriam, you and I have had the debate quite often: are people's attention spans getting shorter? And I think we agree that in some sense they're not. We do have the ability to pay attention. Go see a 3-hour movie. I mean, people don't get up after 7 minutes and walk out, right? They have the ability, but the number of things that are calling for our attention. So think of your learner. Your learner has demands on their attention. They have demands from their personal life, from home, from work, from the people they manage, from the people who manage them and lead them. So there are the number of demands on attention is significant. Kristen, excellent point. The attention economy is becoming greater. Too many things are clamoring for our attention, and it's devices.
Mhm.
You know, that's part of the Bill Lundberg little text there. Bill Lundberg could have texted in Office Space. He would have been really annoying with it. And Amy too. Do we have the ability? Yeah, we do. Do we have the inclination or even the discipline? Probably
Right.
not. But the hard reality is we have to fight for
Mhm.
attention. We have to think about and plan for how we're going to get attention, and that is not easily done.
Yeah, I think one of the things is just thinking outside the box. Like one of the challenges here, right, is most programs are being, or people are being notified about a program, a new learning program through emails or through something that they already receive a million of, right, every day. So if that's the way we're going to get out the word and drive awareness and try to grab attention on a program, we're competing with 250 other messages that
Yeah.
that person received that day. Do they
Right.
have time to read the story? And so, I like Jerry said, we'll have some other examples, but how do we drive awareness in a channel that's not already oversaturated? I think that's a real big component of it. We have oversaturation in the email space. So
Mhm.
how else can we drive that message for our learners?
Yeah. Oh, Amy, wow. I love movie buffs, so you're referencing the movie Scrooged when they're meeting regarding promos, and Bill Murray's character introduces them, the scary ones, right? Fear is a thing that gets
Yeah.
attention for sure.
Yeah.
Probably not at the end of the day a great motivator, because after a while it just won't work anymore. They just won't pay any attention to you. Yeah, so thinking about all of the things that are calling for your learner's attention and then figuring out a way to thread that needle is really, really important. Let's jump into getting our learners' attention. Miriam already talked about connecting the power of story.
Yeah, little question there first.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I missed one. Sorry about that, everybody.
No, just name the brand as we're going through
Oh,
here.
right. Oh, okay, Sarah. Yeah, Amy. Yeah, M&Ms. Yeah, it's how long do you think they spent figuring that out? That wasn't a 1 hour meeting. I mean, I'm sure they tested it and thought about it and tried. And by the way, M&Ms totally melt in your hand. Every
I
bag
was
of M&Ms I've
I
ever
was
eaten,
just gonna
I
say,
I have
yeah.
to do a surgeon thing where I wash from my elbows down, right?
Yeah. I don't
So
know how they
that's
came up with it.
yeah. Well, yeah, Kristen O'Cast probably holding them too long, and it was 90 degrees, and yeah, that probably wasn't a great plan. Frozen M&Ms, that's what they should have gone with. So,
Mhm. Mhm.
well, let's talk about that a little bit with getting our learners' attention and the power of story. There was a fantastic Atlantic Monthly or Wall Street Journal article. I can't remember which one. Well, what does that tell you?
All right.
But it
I
was
think that's
about,
ironic.
yeah, there's some irony in there. It was about phishing scams
Mhm.
and at work, and this company had put together this wonderful, very interactive, powerful training program. Talked about how important it is to the company. This is one of the most important things we can do, is avoiding phishing scams, and the participation rates were abysmally low, and the retention was terrible. But it was all their facts were right. All the content was right. It was well designed. It was according to instructional design principles, and it just landed with a thud. And so they went back and just told stories as motivators prior to the learning. And the stories were all real stories told by the peers of the learners. So people that they might know or work next to told stories of falling for a phishing scam. And after that, the attentiveness to how to avoid that skyrocketed. The participation skyrocketed. But they had to start with stories that they could connect to.
Mhm.
And when you hear that, maybe it's a person that you don't know, but they work in another location and they cause this enormous problem because they made it. And suddenly, back to Adam's point, how does this affect me? I don't want to be the person that did that, right? I don't want that on my business card. Guy who fell for a phishing scam. And so they could connect with that story, and they immediately grabbed onto the the learning, and it worked beautifully. Miriam, you have listed opportunities for advancement too, and maybe either you or Adam can address that. I think that's a really good point. It gets to the why.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of taking it a step further from what we talked about before, the what's in it for me, adult learning theory, which is connecting my, real everyday life to the learning that I'm participating in. Well, in the economy that we have in post-COVID, and we talk all the time about upskilling and reskilling and, all of the terms. But again, being able to frame the learning experience that we're designing as an opportunity for our learners to learn a new skill, to perhaps refine the skill that they currently have in some way. And again, I don't want this to be seen as like a track straight to advancement, right? I mean,
Mhm.
obviously, often the training that we create doesn't tie directly to some sort of advancement, but for them to see that there's value because I can learn a new skill that I can demonstrate or use currently. And perhaps like we obviously there's a lot more. We've seen this at Ingenuity, request for customized learning paths that
Mhm.
are tied clearly to roles and competencies and all of that. And so being able to,
Yeah.
even if you have a huge audience, let's say this is some kind of compliance training that everyone across the company has to take. There's still ways that we can make it clear that participating in this learning experience is a way for you to advance your career or your skills or your ability to connect or network even with other
Mhm.
departments. So there's lots of ways that we can kind of frame it as an opportunity to advance.
Yeah.
Mm.
Isaiah, you make an interesting point here, back to the M&M thing, that they had access to focus groups and studies, right? And we don't. Um, we don't to the degree that they do. But it doesn't mean we don't have information, and we'll come to that in just a minute or two. We'll talk about creating personas and seeing how we can bridge that gap that you're talking about. Well, let's move on to motivation. Some of you, many of you perhaps, work in a global organization. And even if you don't, even if you work in a EU or US based or Asia based, and you have multiple, oh, sorry, I forgot. I keep forgetting this. Adam, this is your fault.
Yeah, you're forgetting our fun quotes, Jerry.
I know. Yeah. That's very true. So Adam, what was the quote again?
Yeah, there is no finish line, and it only took a moment, even as we're scrolling to the next one. So you can tell it's
Yeah.
working. Nike's
Mhm.
marketing department has been successful many times over, of course. And that's, everybody remembers Just Do It, but this was one they came up with, I guess, a few years ago, which I think was also a great
When you
push.
put this up, Adam, and suggested this was one I did not know.
Oh, okay.
So I'm apparently not paying attention.
Hmm.
And but maybe I should pay better attention to it. Well, let's talk about motivation. Oh, okay, Isaiah, you didn't know that either. Okay, then I don't feel so bad. Um, so motivation in global, especially in the global environment, but it can be in multicultural
Mhm.
organizations as well, even if they're located in one location. Um, Obviously, motivation connects to values. So what people value will impact the kinds of things that, while nobody knew the Nike one, Sarah didn't, Burl didn't. Okay, now I'm feeling really good. Not so disconnected. All right, Marilyn, all right, you knew it. Uh, but it varies by culture, and we do a lot of translation, we do a lot of localization, and we're constantly asking ourselves about the culture and what motivates the people in the culture. For some environments, it is entirely individualistic. It's right. It's about, how does this benefit me? And if you don't market the learning to kind of what Miriam was describing. You know, it's the Adam Smith, right? It's how does this impact me? In other cultures, in many cultures, it's why is this important for us? They would be very uncomfortable with the idea of an individualized marketing plan to them, or talking about why this matters to me. Adam, you've done this a long time, Miriam, you have too. Walk us, Adam, if you would, through some thoughts on this.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple things let's talk about for relevant content. So if you're going to frame the story to say that this is important to you, if you're based in Italy or in the Philippines or wherever you might be, I think first of all we have to make sure that the content is relevant to them. Secondly, how are we tailoring the communication, as Jerry has talked about, individual versus more of a group thought process. Focusing along teams as well. So like how can we buy into motivation for teams as themselves? Are they sales teams all over the world, or something else that they're buying into? And it also could be more of a company event. One of the things I was thinking through as we were doing this is there was I don't know, I guess back in iPhone 12 or 14, they had the shot on iPhone was something that they had pushed out, and so people would, they had ads that went out for shot on iPhone. But the idea was to get people to think through like this is the type of quality that you could use for for your iPhone. You could shoot a video of this quality. But what companies can do, similar like the ALS Ice Water Bucket Challenge as well, getting people to participate across the globe, making it more of an event, right? So anytime you have your compliance and ethics training, if it goes out at the same time every year, what's an event that can get everybody motivated to participate? And that can be different than just singling out on a specific topic. But I think outside of that, it's just making sure the content's relevant to them. Is it speaking to them? Are you only marketing it in English to them? Maybe they think, well, it's mainly important just to the people that are in English speaking countries, and it's not as important to me. So I think being able to frame the story for them and ensuring that it fits their certainly their language, but also their culture and their values is helpful. And then lastly, just making sure it ties in with the company values. If they were hired to work at a company that has certain values, they should be wanting to participate in those company values. At least that's our goal as an organization. So I think that's always an easy one. Tie it back to the company's goals, tie it back to the company's objectives, of course, but also just what are some key elements of the company the company culture that we want to tie it into as well.
Yeah, Lawrence, to your point, Adam clearly has more firm handle on trends. He does. He's way cooler than me. So
Well,
there's no question. That's not even up for debate. All right. Well, our quote here is, look at me paying attention. Our quote here is name the brand, right? There are some things money can't buy. For everything else, there's MasterCard. Yep.
MasterCard.
Okay.
Yep.
So everybody's got that one. I knew that one too, which I'm fairly proud of. So let's get into some of the process stuff. The marketing persona. Adam, what is a marketing persona?
Yeah, so essentially, I mean, a lot of times we look at it from a sales and marketing standpoint. We usually call them buyer personas is another way that they'll be framed. But it's a list of it's a subset of information that makes up a particular group that we're communicating to. It could be demographics, professional status is also interesting. Psychographics is another area that they have. One I think is really interesting is information sources. I think that's important when we're looking at this because we might have similar demographics and professional statuses within an organization. We all have, within a certain company, you might say, oh, we're all, based in finance, so we all have a certain type of degree that we need to focus on. But what might be different is how they get their information. So around the world, for instance, where are you going to get your information from, even from within the company? Some people might be more active on Slack and some are more active in email. So the marketing persona in a nutshell is just what makes up the person that you're trying to target, what's of interest to them, who are they, what's their knowledge and understanding, where do they get their information. So it's just a way for us to help understand how we can clearly communicate with them.
Yeah. And I think the first point is important. It's a persona that is an incomplete composite. because
Right.
there are outliers, right? And so when I've seen for the different organizations I've been part of, a marketing firm will come in, they'll create personas, and at the end of the day, you end up with a picture of a
Mm.
person and a
Mhm.
name,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And it's like a learning profile on steroids. But it's more focused on, Adam mentioned a couple, how they communicate. That's a big one.
Mhm.
What motivates them? What
Motivates.
do
Yeah.
they
Mhm.
like? What don't they like? What kind of movies? What, you get some of that basic demographic information in a learner profile, age, education, language, and so
Mhm.
on. But Miriam, what differences do you see?
Well, I think another thing to think about would be like what are their pain points? Because again, if I go back to
Mm,
kind of the traditional mindset that a learning and development professional falls into, maybe it's just me, I don't know, but I see this a lot. We sort of fall into this is interesting, and so we're going to make it, as opposed to, again, what are the pain points of the person I'm serving right now? How can I alleviate that pain point? And again, now I'm talking with more of a marketing perspective, right? What am I offering to them that will make their life better, will alleviate a pain point in their current
mhm,
work situation? So I try to flip that a little bit in my head, just keep focused on that. I have seen learning and development professionals even print off pictures, hang them
mhm,
around, their office, whatever it might be, to remind them. And I would say that's certainly not, applicable all the time.
right.
But I think there's a danger to sort of fall into, especially if I'm internal working within a company and I typically serve certain business units. I sort of fall into this, I know who my learner is. I don't really need to think
Mm.
about it anymore. But there's a danger there. Periodically, we need to take a step back. Let's reevaluate my learners. Who are they? And occasionally, we do get asked to create training materials, learning experiences that fall outside of sort of that normal realm of learners. And I think that's when it's really powerful to actually create those personas, even hang
Mhm.
them up, whatever, just so it's constantly top of mind as I'm creating materials and thinking through them.
Mm.
Yeah, as both of you know, I do a lot of public speaking, and I've always got a particular person in mind.
Mm.
And even a visualization. Sometimes I even name them. They're usually named by people that I knew when I was a boy.
Mm.
Melanie, excellent question. Is this best done through pre-training survey or on-site visit? The answer would be that, and both of those and more. The survey is helpful. A lot of times, depending on the size and complexity of your organization, you can get a lot of raw data, right? You can get age and typical education role, typical education for this particular role, how long they've been with the company, what their job is, and so on. Some surveys are great. You can also extrapolate from those surveys based on their age, their gender, their ethnicity, location in the country or around the world. There's some general assumptions you can make. On-site visits are awesome if you can do it, but it's hard to do and it's expensive to do. But if you can spend some time with the people that you're training, I'll tell a quick story. It's a story I've told before, but I was on site one time in a manufacturing plant in Monterrey, Mexico, and the training was failing miserably, and I could not figure out what was going on until I went and spent like 4 days, 4 or 5 days. Got to go out for dinner with people. We drank some tequila together, right? We had lunch together. We had breakfast together. We stayed kind of all in the same area, and those conversations. It doesn't matter what it was, but those conversations. There was a moment where a light bulb went on, and I went, "Oh,
Mm.
wow, we have missed this completely."
Mhm.
And when we fixed it, the training became, and it wasn't a big fix. It was just bad translation is what it was. They were getting this English stuff. Somebody's second cousin took a year of Spanish in high school or something. It was awful translation, and they felt completely ignored. And so, yeah, yeah, Donna, good point. Surveys, who wants to be surveyed? Nobody.
Mm.
You want my feedback? Great. Great. So yeah, Isaiah, I think you can build a profile of similar quality online. There are some resources. I think, Adam, we have something that we're going to send people after the webinar too that will
That's
help
right. Yeah, a
with
resource on, yeah, absolutely. A resource on setting up your persona. So we'll definitely send that out and any other questions that pop up. But I think that's so great, Jerry, that you brought that up, that kind of pain point there. That was something I had noted down that a lot of times we overlook. Because when you look at like a buyer persona, if you Google it, a lot of times pain points, or like problems it's not going to show up. But that's that's such a perfect one for training, because sometimes you might find out, we send out our training to China and people are not engaged with it. And, did you find out why? Well, they're having a firewall and it's delaying, they're
right.
having a slow internet issue, and the course is miserable for them to take. So that's a critical component of that persona, of that learner persona. But if you don't take time to find out what's bothering them, they're not going to fully engage with the content. So I'm glad that you
Yep.
gave that example about Monterey, because the pain points is critical. If we don't address those, we're not going to
Yep.
reach people.
And then there's the very simple thing, and we'll come to champions later, finding a champion, but building relationships with people who are representative of that portion of the company that you're working with. Somebody that you can ask honest questions to. Those relationships are key. And learning people really need to be, if you can, build a relationship with the general manager of your plant in Taiwan, and have an opportunity to ask him or her questions. It's a marvelous opportunity
Mm.
to learn, and they'll feel honored being asked. But you'll also, at the end of the day, benefit the learner, because you can tailor it to that. Yeah, mail-in translation being bad, that's not uncommon, because unfortunately, translation and localization are often an afterthought. We see that all the time, where, oh, hey, by the way, we need to translate this into 8 languages. Those are things you need to be thinking about in the needs analysis stage, right at the beginning, before you've done any design of any kind. You need to be thinking about that. And that's, going to the Gemba, Anne Marie. Yeah, invaluable. If you can get there and have those conversations on the line. And what I found when I've done that, when I had the opportunity to go to the Gemba, I hope everybody knows it's a lean manufacturing term from Japan. It's the idea of going to the center. And if you get to do that, my goodness, and you're not going there to tell anybody anything. You're going there to learn. And that's just marvelous. So yeah, Maylin, that's a separate conversation about languages and AI in 13 languages. That's another conversation. We want to keep moving here. We want to show one example of whoop, I missed the quote. Sorry, there's one more. The ultimate driving machine. I think everybody knows that, right? Yeah, BMW. Yeah, they've done really well with that single, very short, succinct sentence. There is a way that you have to be careful with personas. Both of these gentlemen are male, both born in 1948, both raised in the UK, both married twice, both live in a castle, both are wealthy and famous. But you might say there's a difference between these two
Buy different
guys.
magazines, right?
Yeah.
Watch different TV shows.
You definitely watch different TV shows. So yeah. Well, let's get into some samples. The first one is a thing that we did for a company. And AI is making this available. This is not something you can do all the time, but for very high profile, very high impact learning experiences, we took the CEO of this company, we took a photograph of him that was publicly available. We took a speech that he had given, and we wrote a script, and then using AI, we did an animation. You can see the top is his real photo, and then the bottom is the one that we chose to do. There's hundreds of different options. This is not quite photorealistic, but there's a little bit of a cartoony element here. But the fun part was we were able to translate this in, I think we did it in Korean and
I think Hindi.
Hindi, and we
I
were
believe.
able to use his voice speaking Hindi. So the CEO, an avatar of the CEO of this company, it was 3 minutes long. It wasn't long, but it was answering that why question, right? It was making it personal. And Miriam and Adam, you were part of this too. It was really funny. The first time we showed it, the people from the company said, how did you get him to record this? And we didn't. I mean, which is, kind of really, really cool and equally terrifying at the same time. But it was a really interesting way to answer that why question. Why is this important to the organization of which I'm a part? Miriam, thoughts on this?
Well, I think that, particularly when we talk about either telling a story or capturing interest, or even, again, I think a common strategy that we have is to, when we if we do think to market, we will often ask a senior leader to provide a quick video of, them talking about the importance, because it ties to company values, and it's a great strategy. There's no doubt about that. The main issue with that is that either your senior leadership team, whoever you're choosing, doesn't have a lot of time. And it's also not evergreen, right? By next year, it could be a different senior leader. It could be,
Yeah.
and so by using, and then we have the whole translation piece again, which can also be overcome, but using AI, or even if we choose not to, right? Like we we have good access to the senior leader and we actually do video, that's okay too. But in both cases, I think AI provides some really great tools to speed up and help
for
us.
sure.
Things that maybe in the past, as a learning and development professional, I would have said, that's a nice to have, but I just don't have time. We don't have the bandwidth. Well, now we do have the bandwidth, and we can put something like this together before we roll out a learning experience.
And it doesn't have to be the CEO either, right? If you're a global
Absolutely.
company, it might be that you have a highly respected person as a general manager or something in a location. And it could be, depending on the learner profile and the persona, it could be that local voice matters a whole lot more to a particular group than the global voice.
Definitely.
All right. Well, let's move on to the next example. Competition. We all know this. Again, culturally, in some places, individual competition works really well. In other locations around the world, you need to localize it, where you're competing as a team over against other teams. And some cultures really thrive in competition. Others find it unseemly. So you have to be a little bit careful of this. I like the leaderboard that's there. Some of those names are familiar to some of you. But Miriam, talk us through the competition. I mean, leaderboards are, kind of 2008, right? Not that they're bad, they still work, but there are some better ways to do that. And you and I worked on a project that was really fun where we built a competition. Can you talk us through that?
Sure. And I would say that, leader, oops, I think we need, yeah, there we go. So there's a whole separate conversation that we don't have time for about, game theory and gamification and all of that. But I will say that in many industries, and again, depending on your learning persona, it can still be, especially obviously, like the natural one top of mind would be like the sales team. Typically, those personalities are highly motivated. And so leaderboards in whatever form, badges, all of that sort of thing, prizes are still very valuable. They do speak to motivation. So we don't want to dismiss those, obviously, but what you're referencing was a pretty amazing training project, and I'll let you speak to that because it was the development of software and really a game to teach financial principles. But the point was that before any of that even ever actually started, the company wanted to really create a sense of build up and excitement for this training. And so they rolled out across the entire company sort of this, I don't know if you want to call it like 10-minute Monopoly, or I forget the exact game that it was.
Yeah,
but
that's what it was
it was
called.
a rapid game everyone could play. And then depending on who the winners were, those were the groups that then actually ended up competing in this game that we designed to teach financial principles against the actual financial team. But what was unique about it was that this company had done all this thought ahead of time, right? So instead of, yes, we were developing the game, but really their whole focus, I mean, it was unbelievably exciting for them. Everybody was participating in this early, 10-minute type game. Who would the winners be? And then that all rolled into the actual training.
Yeah, it was cool. The idea was to take the management team and upskill them in financial management, getting them to see that every single decision they made had financial implications. So we actually created a real video game. But Miriam's point is we didn't just say, here's the video game, go play it. That's your assignment. We built a competition where the vast majority of the learners were not playing the video game. They were watching this group of people, global group of people who had won in 10-minute Monopoly. And that formed a team. And then the other part was, as Miriam said, the true financial leadership, and they played each other and everybody watched it. And there were some stakes. We handicapped the financial team a little bit, the real financial team, level playing field. And they played it over a series of weeks and everybody could see where they were. By the time we launched the game, it exploded. I mean, it was fantastic. And probably one of the better, probably the best marketing of learning that I've ever seen. It was really, really incredible, the response that we got. So let's talk about some others, some visuals and stories. Again, not every learning experience is going to have the CEO speak, right? Not every learning experience is going to have that level of gaming that we talked about, but that doesn't mean that we can't create some really cool visuals and stories. And so Miriam and Adam, just talk about this a bit, if you would, please. You're wondering which one's going to go first.
No, it's all right. Well, I think Adam could probably speak more specifically to either of these, but I think we're talking about more traditional forms of marketing, and that's okay too. It doesn't always have to be, like you said, wild and crazy. We helped launch a leadership program one time that the company had multiple locations and they were global, but it was still manageable. So we did more traditional. We had banners, signage, we had T-shirts, but the
T-shirts,
program,
I remember. Yep.
Yeah, the program itself had its own logo that we helped design. And
I remember too. Sorry, I'm interrupting.
No, it's all right.
But I remember people collected those T-shirts over the years, and like the longer they had been there, they would wear them from previous years. But go ahead.
No, the only quick thing I was going to mention that, Adam, I think you want to speak to this one and the next one as well. But so Sizzle Reels, which I think it's our term, and I've had a lot of people ask, what do you mean by that? When you launch e-learning, let's be honest, the first 5 slides might not be the most scintillating, as hard as we try, right? Or maybe buried 10 minutes in or 5 minutes in is this really cool activity or scenario or video and so when we say Sizzle Reel, what we like to do is we take, we add music, and we actually go in and clip sections of sort of the most interactive or really the most motivating and the part that gets at, like, why do you want to take this learning experience? And we take those clips, we actually show the mouse moving on screen, we play a small portion of it, and we package those all together in like a 30-second clip that's very fast moving with music behind it. And that creates something motivational. So that's kind of what we mean by sizzle reel. And I'm guessing that you all probably use a different word. And I can see that Isaiah said they do sizzle reel for online resources and other things, product launches. So that's wonderful. But Adam, yeah, I know you can speak to this one and also our, kind of our other examples as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest things we touched on a couple slides ago is just AI. Well, I think a lot of these additional ways for us to market our content are being made a lot easier through access to AI tools or some other tools. And you can use something like Adobe Express can pull in various video elements. You can make you make it look like a promo for a movie. I mean, there's lots
Right.
of fun things that you
Trailer.
can do very easily just with some content. You can have scripts written. Okay, these are the topics we want to cover. We want to have it in this tone of voice. Lots of things like that you can do with ChatGPT and other platforms that are out there. So I think the biggest thing here is almost just don't limit yourself. Well, we've always done it this way. Well, you might not have been getting the engagement you want, so let's try something new. And it's probably going to be fairly low cost. Most of those programs are, a monthly fee that's fairly minimal. So I would just say
Right.
there's a lot of technologies, Adobe Express, ChatGPT. There's a number of video platforms that are coming out, not speaking just to like Synthesia, but like actual creative video platforms that are going to be gaining traction later this year, where you can ask for a promo in the style of this. And,
Yep.
I mean, well, there's going to be issues, of course, with a lot of that at some point, but I think from a learner perspective, we're not selling that content. So I think for now we can use it to drive engagement. That's all positive.
Yeah. All right. Let's go on to champions. I had mentioned this before, finding those influencers in regions. Most multinational companies where I've been on a board or been involved in learning or whatever, you can find out that there are actual influencers, and it's not defined by the position. They have a different sort of influence, right? It's not necessarily positional. I knew of one where one of the maintenance guys was the man. He was the guy, and everybody listened to him. Find out who those influencers are and give them an opportunity to give you some feedback. If they like what you show them, get a video endorsement from them. Give them, instead of you sharing directly with learners, if it can come through somebody whose opinion really matters to them, my goodness, what a powerful thing for somebody to say, for us, for our team, for us right here in this location. This is why this matters. And I took it and it's really good. And I strongly encourage you to participate in it and come and see me if you have any questions. That sort of thing, it takes time. It takes planning. But it can be done. And it takes those relationships that that we had mentioned earlier. Adam, any or Miriam, anything quick to add on this? If not, we'll move ahead to just.
Yeah, go right ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, just a kind of a final thoughts. There's no single action. Every person in marketing knows, well, there's no viral button, but there's no single action. It has to be a bunch of different things going on all at the same time. The L&D community is highly creative. So be creative in how you think about how you're going to market. Use your creativity, connect to your learners. Build out your personas. And again, if that's new language to you or a new concept, we'll send you a tool to help, but we can also help you do that. And then finally, and Miriam, I think this is an important one from a learning perspective, do it from the start. It's almost always, we've built this thing, now what do we do with it? And probably not the greatest methodology, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a question we actually have when we work with clients. It's on our needs assessment. So before we prepare a quote, before we do anything, put a proposal together, one of the first things we want to know is, have you thought about how you're going to communicate this? What's your communication plan? What's your marketing plan? And to be honest, that's like just a prompt for myself as well. Like, remember to ask these questions. So it is something we have to think about at the very beginning.
Yeah. A few questions here. Send out the link to the tools. We'll do that in the next day or so. And is there a campaign template? Not really. We'll send out a copy of the webinar. We can send you the slides too. But as you think through those, think broadly, Aubrey. Think of a multi-pronged approach. And where might a great story fit in here? Or is
Mhm.
this an AI generated tool? Or do we need to do
Mhm.
badging? Would that work? But you kind of do that after you've built the personas. So
Yeah.
start with the personas and then look at which of the tools you have available to you that will match up with what you're doing.
Yeah. Marketing funnel, I think, is probably the other thing.
Yeah.
How we're looking at like a template, just if you pull in the marketing funnel and then start thinking through that, what does it look like for me to build awareness outside of sending the email? So start asking yourself some of those questions. We can definitely provide some more thoughts there, but the marketing funnel is a really great place to start.
It is. We
Mhm.
go back to that a lot because it forces you into a system to think in a particular way. We do have an upcoming webinar that some of you might be interested in. Does your C-suite, do your executive leadership, do they know the true value of your global learning efforts? This is one of the hardest questions to answer. And so we brought in some people who are way smarter than we are. Brandon Carson, who heads up global learning at Starbucks, Jerry Kaminsky who heads up learning at Ford, and then there are two other people on the right that you already know now, Miriam and me. But we'll send you some information on that. And yeah, any final questions? Any final comments? We do appreciate all of the engagement here and the opportunity to converse with all of you. And we look forward to, if you have needs, yeah, there's our contact information is here. You can reach out to us in multiple ways. And we look forward to having a conversation with you. And again, we very, very much appreciate your time today. Thank you.
You all.
I was going to say, Miriam, do you want to say anything before I take it away? But thank you guys so much for this. This has been amazing. Great audience, honestly.
All right. Thank you, Liz, for hosting us. And we hope everyone has a good morning or afternoon or evening, depending on where you are in the world. Have a good day.
Thank you all.
Beautiful. And with that, thank you guys so much. I do invite you to join in other webinars as well, especially a lot about AI or our coming up leader talk. All of these you can register now at trainingindustry.com, and all of them do pre-qualify for a credit hour by HRCI and SHRM and CPTM. And if you're wondering what CPTM is, it's the Certified Professional and Training Management Program that assists you in developing core competencies that will empower you to manage the future training needs of your organization. You can participate in several of these programs held within the US or join us for a virtual practicum from anywhere in the world. Find more information at trainingindustry.com/training. And then additionally, Training Industry Virtual Strategy Summit is coming up September 25th through the 26th. This year's sessions were handpicked to tackle the challenges of building an effective learning strategy, from leveraging the latest in AI to supporting developmental of your strategy. Our careful curated sessions promise to provide invaluable perspectives and renew sense of direction for your organizational's learning strategy. Register now at trainingindustry.com/strategies summit. And lastly, that evaluation survey should have popped open in another tab in your browser, and we would appreciate hearing your feedback from today's session. Thank you so much again to today's speakers, Miriam, Jerry, and Adam, and additionally, our sponsor, Ingenuiti. And lastly, I want to thank you for your time and attention today, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Wow.